Hi, my name's Chloe and I'm going to be talking about The Final Girl and Halloween. The Final Girl. The Final Girl is a concept which relates to the woman who survives until the very end of the horror movie. This also links to who we empathize with the most. The viewer firstly begins sharing the view of the killer, but then we identify with the final girl towards the end of the film. Halloween. Halloween was created in 1978, directed by John Carpenter, who was dedicated to his career in horror. He co-wrote with a woman named Deborah Hill. This is quite surprising, as there is arguably quite some misogynist themes in this film, especially in terms of when the sister dies and she is naked. So it's like the fact that she just had sex, so it's like women who are seen as impure, women who are not virgins, deserve to die. Halloween was an independent film with a budget of $325,000, and that is not a lot compared to some films. It then made $47 million at the US box office, so it was very successful. The film was created in 21 days, which doesn't seem like a lot. The moral fibre of the characters is directly linked with their potential to survive, so the sexually promiscuous characters all end up dying. So all of Laurie's friends end up dying. That scene when Laurie is wondering where her books is, like she lost her chemistry book, the friends are like, oh, I always leave my books at school. So it shows straight away there that Laurie is different from the other girls. She doesn't fit in. She's an outcast of society. So in some ways she's kind of like the monster, she's kind of like the villain. And this theme was portrayed in Carol J. Clover's Her Body Himself research. There was influences from Psycho, and you can see that in terms of the icon of the knife. It looks exactly like the knife Norman Bates had. And in terms of sound, they both use sound perfectly to evoke a reaction from the audience. So with Norman Bates, the Psycho strings, that makes you feel uncomfortable. Same with the Halloween music with the dun dun, because you're like, oh my gosh, where's Michael? Michael's gonna come. When you hear that, you know Michael's going to come. Like Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was a deliberate attempt to create suspense without the use of gore. So I really feel like this is where the directors show their skill, because blood doesn't necessarily equal scary. The psychological aspect of not seeing it can make you more scared, and I personally think that is what makes me more scared, even though I am scared of blood when I see it in horror movies. So what you think you see and what you actually see. In Halloween, this theme is always portrayed, and when I was watching it, it makes you even more scared, because it's like you're confused. Is Laurie crazy, or is Michael actually there, or am I thinking incorrectly? You don't know. So there's a part when Laurie thinks she sees Michael near the clothing line, and then she looks again through the blinds, and then he's not there. So you think, is Laurie crazy? Because we're in her position, so we kind of think like Laurie. So like, did she actually see him, or was he not there, or what? And then I really like the part in terms of use of sound when Laurie first thinks she hears someone crying, but then it's actually children laughing. So it's like this constant seesaw of danger. No, it's actually safety. So you're off your seat. You're constantly thinking, is Michael going to come? You're constantly worrying about what is going to occur. The final point would be Carol J. Clover's research in Her Body Himself, which links to the key quotes which I picked out, which I will address. So, in Dressed to Kill 1980, we are led to believe, again by means of glimpse, that we are female, only to discover in the denouncement that we are male in drag. So this links to the idea that a lot of the villains in horror are both genders in a way. Like Norman Bates, he switches between female and male, and you're not really sure which one he is. So it almost adds a more monstrous element because it's even more the unknown, the outcast of society. You're not sure what to expect of them. So it's like the moral sense is different compared to those who have a specific gender and they will behave in a certain way. So in horror, it's mainly predictable how specific genders behave. So in terms of conventions, so the woman, the damsel, and the man, the hero or the villain, in that sort of contrast in a way. In terms, there's another quote, and the gender of the final girl is likewise compromised from the outset by her masculine interest, her inevitable sexual reluctance, her partners from other girls, sometimes her name. So like the idea that these are the traits which the final girl have, because she's not going to have hedonistic traits, she's going to be an outcast. So like with Laurie, she was worrying about her chemistry book, but her friends did not care about their books. They were too busy fussing over boys and prom or what they're gonna have a date. That's why the girl was so shocked when Laurie showed an interest. So it's like in horror, you can either be smart or you're girly. You can't be a hero and be feminine. You have to be masculine. So Squirrel basically critiqued some feminists, as he said. Some of the audience members, they cheer with like misogynist misfits basically, so they're like complaining about how the way that women are presented, and then they said that some men, they cheer with the rape and plunder and murder of the screaming, withering female victims, but they don't realise that it's these same men who cheer on the heroines who are strong and independent, just like the earlier victims presented in the film. So it's like, it's saying to feminists, you see one side of men, but you don't look at the idea that not all of them perceive women in that way. So like with Laura Marie's theory, it could be kind of implied that she's just saying that all men see women like objects, but that's not necessarily true. Men are not a homogenous group, so that is something you actually can critique. So these are the 3 quotes which I thought were the most important while looking at Carol J. Clover's Her Body Himself's article / research.